Tamla Morris Brown, CEO of Aaliyah's Motivation of Women. Tamla's pain is her motivation, which is also her battle cry. Join her in her leadership to bring awareness to fibromyalgia. Let's make a difference and bring the end to 24 hours, 365 days a year of pain. Tamla Morris Brown can be reached at 313-289-4090. That's 313-289-4090. Join her if you or somebody you know has fibromyalgia. Tamla, a soldier in pain.
Discover the truth.
Original, we the first to do it, and all these other nations are just our children. Even the pale skin was made in our image. Read the book of Ruth and check out your lineage. It's the melanin that gives us a dark complexion. That's a gene, no color separation. The Willie Lynch let it work to perfection. 2000 something and y'all still guessing. Don't know your nationality or your family tree, cause you refuse to listen to the prophet Drew Ali. So I put it in a rap to a mad production, so while your head bobbing you can start to learning something. A great importance, there's so much to learn. Rewind and track and soak it in, knowledge is born.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Think Tank Show. My name is Sister Katrina Muhammad, and I'm so happy to be with you today because for the past couple of weeks I had a knee injury and I was not able to be here. So I'm so happy to be with you viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Think Tank Show. We have a very special show today. Brother Sutton Bay is not with us today, so I'm holding it down, and I'm holding it down today with my sister, Sister Jessica Muhammad, who is my guest. So I really want to let you know in advance that we're going to be talking about a sensitive subject and topic today. We're going to be talking about sexual assault and abuse and molestation in the Black community. This has been a show and a topic that I have wanted to discuss for quite some time. Those of you who have been watching me and know me know how passionate I am about children and issues that affect children. And this is certainly an issue that affects women and girls and boys, which we are going to be talking about in the show, and it's something we need to discuss. So I'm letting you know in advance, if you have children and maybe you don't want them to be exposed to this conversation, then of course you might want to issue them out of the room and let's talk, okay? But honestly, I do think you should let them hear the show and let them understand so that they can have some warning signs and be prepared so they can better protect themselves. Please feel free to call in because we want to hear your story and your truth. The numbers are going to flash across the screen, but they are 313-868-0342 or 313-868-0351. And the numbers are going to flash across the screen again, so please make sure you call in. So I want to read something to you out of the final call. It was written by one of their columnists. Her name is Sister Starla Muhammad, and this was in 2012 of February. The title of the article is called Sexual Abuse and Molestation, The Open Secret. It reads, I was 5 years old when I was molested by my babysitter. She actually was a friend of my mother. My mother and father, they had separated. My mom had to take an evening job, so my mom would have to leave us over there at her house while she went to work. This was written by someone who was sharing. The next day, I didn't say anything. I just stared at my food. When it was time for us to go outside and play, I literally just ran out the door. I was terrified. This is someone sharing in this article what happened to them when they were a child. So let's talk about the statistics. I love to share the data. 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before the age of 18. 90% of child sexual abuse victims know their abuser. 1 in 7 incidents of child sexual abuse perpetrated by juveniles occurs on school days. Of children who are sexually abused, 20% are abused before the age of 8. History of child sexual abuse increases the chances of dropping out of school, and only between 4 and 8% of child sexual abuse reports are fabricated. So most of the time when children are saying, this is what happened to me, it is indeed what happened. Only 1/3 of child sexual abuse incidents are identified, as even fewer are reported, and emotional and mental health problems are often the first consequence and sign of child sexual abuse. And the last statistic I'll read to you today, it states here, use of alcohol or drugs at an early age can be a sign of trauma, such as child sexual abuse. So there are reasons behind things that happen with our teenagers, their behavior, in some cases their outlandish behavior of promiscuity and other things that they're doing. It's because something happened to them. And we need to start having these conversations. So I don't want to belabor the point, but whenever I ask guests to be on the show and whenever I ask them to talk about something, especially something like this, to share their truth, I think it would be hypocritical of me if I didn't also share my truth. So I'm bringing this subject up today because I was also a child victim of sexual molestation, and I'm not going to necessarily go into the details of that, but I was very young when this occurred, and I'm pretty sure, as my heart is beating really fast right now, my family is going to view this tape and be a little surprised because actually I've never spoken to them about it. I've only talked to my therapist before, as well as my auditor, and we'll talk about auditing later on in the show. But it happens so often, more than you know, and to not just girls, but also to boys. And we need to talk about this. We need to talk about the effects that this has on our community and how we can better help ourselves to get healthy. So let's have the conversation. Sister Jessica, how you doing?
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you?
After I just shared that, I
Yes,
think I'm
ma'am.
okay. On live TV, I decided to just share my truth. But, you know, I think that that's important
It is.
because when I prayed on it and I, you know, we talked about doing this show
Right.
a couple months ago.
Yes.
And I knew that there was no way that I could bring you on the show or anyone on the show and discuss this topic or ask them to share their truth or their story and I not reveal and share mine.
Right.
And so then when I think about it over the years, all of my choices from teaching to belaboring marriage, putting all of that off and just really focusing on my career, all of that, I believe, was based off of what happened to
Right.
me.
Absolutely.
Some choices I made in life before I took my Shahada, which means before I came into the Nation of Islam, before I decided to become a registered member in the nation. Wild, crazy things in college and high school, just mistakes, you know. I look back at that and I say, wow, I really think that all of it is connected.
Yes.
It's all connected. But I'm so thankful to Allah that I came into the nation and I got the help that I needed
Right.
to heal myself. And I think it's something that you're still healing. Like, I don't even know if
If you're ever done.
you're ever
healing.
done
Right.
because it's like so many layers.
Yes.
You know? But when I hear about other people and their stories, my heart just bleeds. You know, I was at Spelman and I remember we took a class. And Spelman, for those of you who are not aware, is an all black female college. And I was there and I remember the class was called Chapel. We had a chapel on campus. And they had different speakers that were there to talk to the women. And they asked a question to the audience. And they asked them to raise their hand if anyone had ever experienced molestation, sexual assault, all of that. and so many hands
Probably almost the whole
went
class.
up
Yes.
in that room.
Yes.
And this was a mandatory class for like the entire freshman class or the
Right.
entire so there were, hundreds of women in this room, and just one hand after the other. And then they had these microphones set up, and they asked people if they wanted to share, that they could walk up and share. And there were women walking up to the microphone, and some of the stories and things that they were saying in terms of what actually happened to them. I mean, it took weeks for me to dry my face because it was a tearjerker. Like, it was just so outrageous, you know, that that had happened to them.
Right.
So, I mean, we talk about the Catholic community, the um, the white Catholic community, and the priest and pedophilia and just all of that. But we really need to be talking about our own community
Right.
and these things that are happening in the black community,
Every day.
but we're not discussing it. And so, just real quickly, I'm going to read this part and then I want to ask you some questions. And again, callers, please call in and share your truth with us at 313-868-4336 or 313-868-0351. I look forward to talking with you. In this same article that I started reading, it states that many of us don't want to risk having to deal with that in terms of the reason why it's not discussed or talked about. It says, and plus it means to actually have one more problem to deal with. You actually have to face issues of perhaps confronting a perpetrator in the family, since most sexual abuse is done by a family member or an acquaintance, and perhaps even having to confront your own issues of past sexual abuse, says Ms. Coleman, a lecturer and author of Creating a New Normal, Cleaning Up a Dysfunctional Life, which chronicles her healing and recovery. This was her book. And so I was quoting her in terms of why we're not talking about this issue in the black community. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think in the black community, especially, men and women, we're taught be strong. How
Yes.
many times have we told our sons or our brothers or our fathers, man up,
Right.
And it's the same thing for the woman. You're taught to you have to keep going. I too have heard stories that make you cry. I think it's the stories that I've heard is, when they come to the parents and they express that, sometimes they don't get the love back that they want. They're told, move on, get over it.
Right.
And it's not something that's that easy, you know? And it's usually because the parents have been through something. So they don't know how to express themselves and they don't know how to express that love. But if you can't just move on and get over it, because you will act out, like you said.
Yes.
Anger, depression, sadness. These are things that happen in the black community that we do not talk about
Right.
at all.
Right.
And it's really, when you look at these young black men and people say they're up to no good, or they're not doing anything productive, it could possibly be that they have been through things in their life and they don't know how to let go of their anger.
Right. I mean, we think it doesn't happen to black men, but it happens to black men all the time. In fact, I'm
Yes.
looking at another article called The Societal Effects of the Molestation of Black Boys. This is on finalcall.com. Viewers, you can find it. The columnist was Brother Derek Muhammad. It was written actually in 2009. He says the societal effects of the molestation of black boys, the invisible teardrops. I mean, it's just deep. It says too often the pain and embarrassment of the community is made to be more important than the pain of the victim. So while we are able to put on a good face for the community, in the end, it comes back to haunt us.
Yes.
I definitely think this is the case even more so with men, because it's emasculating. It's
Yes.
not supposed to happen to black boys, but the reality is it happens all too often. Do you have a comment about that?
It happens all too often, and it also happens from women being the molesters of young black boys. It's not just men molesting men out there or molesting girls out there. There are women who molest children as well.
Like the movie, I believe it was Precious, right?
Yes.
And that was Tyler. That wasn't that a Tyler,
Tyler
Perry movie?
Perry. Yes.
I cringed when I
Yes.
saw that movie. I mean, it was so uncomfortable.
It was.
But that's what made it such a good film, because it was supposed to tap into that visceral feeling,
Right.
that emotion of just like, oh, this is disgusting. How could this woman do this? Because she's supposed to be mom.
Right.
She's supposed to be the image and the view of the traditional mom that, that we see and that we want. But she was so far from that.
And you have to think, you wouldn't be disgusted if you didn't know that it happened in real
Right.
life. You know, when you see something and it's fairy tale and it doesn't happen, you're not going to be disgusted by it, but you're disgusted because you know that somewhere, someone is going through that.
So this article says, how many black men walk the streets of America suffering from such an unfortunate past? How many of them fear society's ridicule if they should choose to talk about it? How many sick molesters of boys depend on this very fear to remain unpunished and continue their victimization of the innocent? And how much of financial resources, time, energy, and organization is being invested in programs that identify, support, and promote the healing of men who were molested as children? It states that whether people agree with, so let me read this part. It says, recently famed movie director, actor, entrepreneur Tyler Perry, since we were just talking about him, personally went on record about being abused as a young boy. Hundreds of news reports quoted Perry's sentiments about a deceased man whose family asked that Perry pay for his funeral. Perry reportedly refused, but later regretted it. He said that there would have been something powerful about burying the man that molested him. Wow. Wow. So what do you think he meant by that? Like in terms of a forgiveness, a closing the chapter?
Um, it could be that, you know, I'm not in his head. It could be forgiveness. It could be closing the chapter, letting go of anger.
So I mean, I can assume by this article and this statement, he never actually confronted his
Right.
abuser.
It could also be when it happens to you when you're younger and you're a child, you know, burying someone who did that to you. It's almost like an end to the story. You know, I'm still here. I'm stronger. I've made it. And this is the end. You didn't break me.
Right.
You're gone.
Right.
You're no longer here. You can't hurt anybody else. And I'm a survivor. You know,
So let's talk about amnesia, because I've heard this to be true in terms of people who suffer something like sexual assault or molestation as a child, that they actually don't remember that until much later in life. And maybe it's PTSD. And I had to ask Sister, what is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder? And it got me thinking about this whole piece on amnesia, because earlier today, the Ramadan prayer line through Sister Nisa Islam, and you can look her up on Facebook, and she did post on SoundCloud, I believe, today's prayer line message was from a sister named Sister Camila Muhammad, who's a black psychiatrist, and she discussed and talked about how trauma scientifically now is able to be seen as making a marker on the DNA, and that this is really important when it comes to black people, because the trauma that we suffered all the way from slavery to modern day,
yes.
okay, with you know, many of the brothers and sisters, because I think of Sandra Bland and everything that happened to her, being shot and killed. All of this creates markers of trauma and pain on the psyche and also in the DNA. And so what that does is it creates a situation where we respond a certain kind of way, or even act a certain kind of way, or in some cases don't remember at all. We just, it's a protective mode of just your mind blocking something out that happened to you that was so painful that you don't even recall it, even though you went through it.
All right.
What's your comment on that?
It happens all the time. You know, especially when you're younger, you are not old enough to process what's going on. You're not old enough, and it's very confusing. You just know it's wrong, and it's sad, and it's painful. So you shut down, and a lot of times you don't remember until you get older. But it's still in your memory. You just haven't opened that door yet. So you end up acting out in different ways, or you're sad and you don't know why, or you know, you can't be around this person because you just, something about him or something about her doesn't feel right. You have anger towards this person. And you don't understand why. And then when you get older and maybe you can process it a little bit more, you start to remember. It happens all the time in the black African American community with boys and girls. And it's important that you're having this show because you might not know something happened to you. Maybe you had dreams about something happening to you, or a feeling or a memory, but you can't really, it's not the full memory. You know, so this show could help a lot of people because that happens all the time. We block off trauma.
Exactly. Family, we're going to take a quick break. I want you to think about the truth that you want to share with us today. We want you to call in because the whole point of this show and this sensitive topic that we're discussing is to bring healing to our community. And you can't begin to do that unless you talk about it and you open up and you deal with your own truth. So please call into the show. We'll talk to you on the next half. Give us a quick couple-minute break. You'll be with us. You're not going anywhere, right?
I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here.
And we're going to continue the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to the Think Tank Show. See you in a minute.
Discover the truth.
Tamla Morris Brown, CEO of Aaliyah's Motivation of Women. Tamla's pain is her motivation, which is also her battle cry. Join her in her leadership to bring awareness to fibromyalgia. Let's make a difference and bring the end to 24 hours, 365 days a year of pain. Tamla Morris Brown can be reached at 313-289-4090. That's 313-289-4090. Join her if you or somebody you know has fibromyalgia. Tamla, a soldier in pain.
Knowledge is born. Better know who you are, discover the truth. Cause the truth don't change, no, the truth don't change, it remains the same. Better know who you are, discover
They got
the
us
truth.
working like slaves for a couple of dollars. Like Marvin said, it make me wanna holler. How they doing? My life is straight trife. They robbing me without a gun or a knife. Hey, what I needed was a propia persona. I'm blowing the system. Come and get me, your honor. Standing on.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Sister Katrina Muhammad again on the Think Tank Show. Welcome back. Thank you for staying tuned in with us. We are talking about sexual assault and molestation in the black community, and I want to read part of this article that I pulled up from the Final Call called The Societal Effects of the Molestation of Black Boys, and this was written by columnist Derek Muhammad. He writes that psychologists say that boys who have been molested tend to suffer from depression, repressed anger, emotional confusion, and fear. Many suffer from identity crisis, drug addiction, alcoholism, and the inability to maintain good relationships. That's important, right? Many go on to become molesters themselves, repeating the very horrific acts that inflicted such great pain in their lives. Some end up committing suicide, leaving their families with unanswered questions and visible teardrops. In the same article, this columnist brought up Tyler Perry and how he dealt with his abuser, some comments that he made about his abuser. He said, whether people agreed with Perry's sentiments or not, you have to respect his courage to address his past in hopes of inspiring someone else's future. And And in saying that, it reminds me he has a lot in common with Oprah Winfrey. That could be the reason why they're such good friends, because she's been very candid, very open about her abuse that took place for many, many years, causing her to become pregnant as a teen. She ended up losing that baby, but she went through a whole lot. So do you think there's a connection there in terms of their friendship?
Absolutely. When you have gone through something that traumatic and you find someone else who has gone through it,
There's an understanding.
there's an
there.
understanding and there's like a kinship there.
Right.
You know, and it's easy to talk to that person. And sometimes it's not easy to talk to people about something so painful,
Right.
especially as a black male. So, you know, finding someone else who has gone through something similar, you might find some, like I said, some kinship, some friendship in that, and you can hold on to that because you're not being told, get over it, it's been years, or, you know, and you're not, I can only imagine there's not a lot of pity in that relationship,
Right.
you know, because it's not about pitying the person, you
Right.
know.
They're not asking for
Then
pity.
no one is asking for the pity, they just want understanding.
Understanding, yeah.
That's it. So I'm pretty sure that that has a lot to do with their friendship.
So do you have a truth to share?
Well, just like you, I was molested when I was younger. It was when I was very young. And it was by someone, like the statistics say, someone that you know.
Younger than like 10?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. So just like the statistics said, before the age of 8.
Right.
Wow.
It's,
And just to make sure we put, have a clearer understanding of what that means, 8-year-olds are in the 3rd grade. I know this because I used to teach 3rd grade. So we're talking about before a child even reaches the 3rd grade. And I mean, in the 3rd grade, some of my students were still learning how to tie their shoes. They were still coming to school accidentally calling me mommy instead of Miss Muhammad. Well, my name was my maiden name back then. But, I mean, they were still very babyish
yes.
at that age.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's
It
terrible.
makes you wonder what kind of person could look at that and think a sexual thought. Because
Right.
8-year-olds are not even developed.
Right.
So what do you see?
I
you
believe
know?
I was like 5 or 6
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
So, how have you dealt with it?
Like you, being in the nation has helped me tremendously. You know, having a relationship with Allah God,
Yes.
and even if you're not a Muslim, just having a relationship with your God,
Right.
because
We do have a lot of Christians
right,
and various other people who watch this show. That's one of the reasons why I decided to co-host this show with Brother Sutton Bay. He's with the Moore Science Temple. I'm with Nation of Islam. But what we're trying to do here is show people that it's not about who you identify with. It's about helping our community and all of us uniting.
yes,
So I'm so glad you made that comment.
yes, it's definitely about. It's not about, you know, which God you pray to, but
Right.
or even if you don't necessarily pray to God, whoever you look at as the higher being or being spiritual, it's so important to have that relationship, because I don't forgive the person who did that to me, but I don't allow myself to dwell on that anymore.
Okay.
Because I know God will deal with them.
Yes.
So I can't hold on to that pain anymore. You know, I've had time to deal with it. I've gone through therapy. You know, it took me a long time to even be able to tell my truth or be able to say that it happened to me.
Right.
But now that I am where I am, I no longer let that define who I am. That's just a part of my life.
Praise God.
That happened. That was very painful. But you can move on. So anybody out there who's watching this, who has gone through it, and maybe you have not opened up about it yet, you can move past that. That doesn't define you. It's just a little moment in your life that you can get over. You can overcome it.
So when we were talking before we went on air, we're talking about how wise the minister is.
Yes.
And the minister is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes.
And he's commented and talked about so much, but he's talked about this issue.
Yes.
You want to share with the viewers what you recall and remember
Well,
about him stating or making a comment about this issue?
He speaks about this issue a lot because it happens in the African American community a lot. It happens in the world a lot. But one thing that I do remember him saying, and he says this a lot, is that, you know, when you take advantage of a child, you're killing that child's spirit. When you take advantage of a woman, you're killing that woman's spirit, you know. And when I went to therapy and I spoke to my therapist about it, she kind of was like, you know, a lot of times the child's mind will stop at that trauma and they can't get past it. And it made sense to me because of what the minister had said about killing the spirit, you know. And she was like, a lot of times the child, if they can't get past it, the mind will shut down and they'll stay mentally in the age that they were when that happened to them, and they don't understand how to process it.
So hence people saying, you need to grow up.
Right.
You need to mature.
Yes.
You need to act more like an adult. Well, they probably are unable to do that,
Right.
because they're stuck
Right.
on the time track in terms of when that happened to them,
Right.
unable to get out of the trauma of that.
And they might even be only stuck in one area. So they might be successful in their life, but when it comes to personal relationships,
Right.
they're stuck in that period. They can't have personal relationships with people because they don't know who to trust, and they have all of this trauma that they don't know how to deal with. So they walk through life and they don't have friendships, they don't have love, because they can't connect with people because they're still stuck as that child that happened to.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have rules in the Nation of Islam. Some think they're quite draconian. But one of our rules for the women is that we've been told not to leave our children
Right.
with people, period.
Absolutely.
Like, they're supposed to be with us at all times. And for this very reason.
Yes.
And this was declared and put out in the nation as our new protocol by the messenger. And you're seeing a wonderful picture of him on our green screen here between the sister and I. He's wearing the fez. This is the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the messenger, the exalted Christ. And when that first occurred, I mean, Minister Farrakhan was very vocal about when his wife, Mother Khadijah Farrakhan, came home and told him that she could no longer leave the children with him, that they would be with her at all times.
Right.
And he said, what are you talking about? And that's insulting. You're insulting me. You know, what are you trying to say about me? But when he heard, you know, the reasoning and the rationale behind that decision, he submitted and understood. It was sad that that's the, you know, situation in our community, even back then, but he understood it and he went along with it. So
Right.
what would be your advice to our viewers today, young mothers watching our conversation and listening? What would you say to them today?
I think the most important thing that I could say to them today is, if your gut is telling you something is wrong, believe it. Don't brush it off.
Right.
Don't sweep it under the rug. Don't just try to forget about it because it's easier to, you know, to kind of be like, I don't want to deal with that. If your child is displaying behavior that makes you question it, then you need to further that.
Right.
No matter whose feelings get hurt, because you never know what's going on, you
Right.
know? And if it's the father and you question the father and he gets upset about it, that's okay. Because I'd rather you be upset and my child be safe
Be safe.
than me walk on eggshells and not want to ask you and something be happening. And maybe, you know, maybe by me questioning the father or you questioning whoever's in the household with that child, maybe you can get down to who it is or what's going on, and maybe there's a situation that needs to be addressed,
Right.
you know. So if something, mothers have intuition.
Right.
They have their gut feeling. So if your gut is telling you something ain't right with my baby,
Right.
believe it.
You're compelled to act.
Yes.
I knew of a case or a situation with a student who was being molested or abused by a boyfriend of the mother. The mother suspected it but didn't know for sure, but never really confronted the issue because the boyfriend was paying all of the bills.
Yeah.
And financially taking care of her and her family. So she just kind of put her head in the sand.
Right.
You know? And I think that happens more times than not. Obviously, that's a problem. It's a crime. You can have your children taken away from you. You are not doing the best thing in terms of looking out for them and taking care of them the way that you should as their guardian. But that happens
Oh, yes.
so much in our community. What would be your advice to a woman who finds herself in that situation? She financially is scared to leave because she doesn't know if she can cover down.
Well, let me first start by saying it's your obligation to take care of your child.
Right.
That child did not ask to be here. It's not that child's fault that this person is taking advantage of them. And as a mother and as a parent, it is your responsibility to keep that child safe, regardless of the situation. It might be that you have to be uncomfortable. You might have to be uncomfortable. You might have to, get 2 jobs or try to figure it out, but your child's safety should be your number 1 priority, So if you don't,
And this should be for the fathers too, though.
Yes.
I mean, because if a man is not in the home with his child,
Absolutely.
and he knows that the mom, the woman he was with previously, has custody of the children, has some other man living around his child, he needs to be active and,
Oh, yes,
and involved
absolutely.
in what's going on in that house.
Yes.
Introduce himself to the new stepfather or the boyfriend or whoever.
Right.
Make sure he has a presence
Yes. But also,
and fight for his children. I know so
Yes.
many men that just give up. They are having problems or had problems with the child's mother, and they just said, I'm washing my hands of this.
I don't wanna
wanna
deal with
go
the
to court.
headache.
I don't want to deal
Right.
with it. I don't want to go to court. I mean, unfortunately, I had some members of my family feel that way, and then, of course, all the entire family pounced on that person and said, no, sir, you need to go to court. You need to fight for your children.
Right.
So I don't want to just say, okay, the moms, but the dads,
No,
too,
it's-
the biological fathers need to also be involved.
yes, if they're there, they also need to be. Both parents, or even if it's not a parent, if it's a guardian, whoever's in charge of this child needs to be involved. If you're not and you have a feeling that something's going on, but you're scared or, you don't know what will happen financially, and you brush that underneath the rug, you're taking a part in destroying that child. You're taking a part in destroying your child and causing them pain, So now you're working hand in hand with the person that's doing this because
Right.
you could have stopped it,
Right.
you know?
I want to read something out of Closing the Gap. And just real briefly, this is on page 240 or 241. And this is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He was being interviewed by Brother Jabril. And I want to make sure I have the right place where I wanted to read. Okay. He states here that when a people say that they are Muslim and they believe in the Quran, and the Quran bears witness to the scriptures revealed to the former prophets, and then you hear believers in one of the great prophetic voices of God talking on that revelation from God. If you love God and you love the word, that word preached by somebody who's not yet where you are will nurture you. So no, I can't be compromised on what I know and believe, because what my Christian brothers believes bears witness to what I have been taught. I look at the cosmopolitan nature of what was revealed to Prophet Muhammad. I look at how the prophet understood the Torah and understood the gospel aspects of it, and judge people out of their own book. If he heard a rabbi teaching from the Torah, how would that confuse him with what God had revealed to him. That has its root in that which the Torah and the gospel are rooted. No, I'm strengthened in what I've been taught when I hear the gospel preach, and when I hear the Torah preach, or when I hear the preaching of any sage or wise man who I can recognize came from God. I am strengthened by that preacher. It's only a fool who would close his ear to a Christian pastor or a Jewish rabbi or a Zoroastrian teacher or anyone who's preaching truth. For Prophet Muhammad says, seek truth even if you have to go far off to China. Seek it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us to respect truth and honor truth, no matter who is speaking it. So I wanted to read that statement because we've spoken a lot of truths here.
Yes.
And we have an audience that are listening or watching us right now or listening to us on the internet live, and they are of various faiths. And so I hope that we said an encouraging word today to them to inspire them to have that conversation with their child or have the conversation with other children that's in their home, because you might just save a life today.
Right.
Sister Jessica, I want to thank you for being on the show today and
you so
talking
much.
about this very sensitive subject and topic,
Yes, ma'am.
sexual assault and abuse in our community. Thank you so much for that. And now, the book of the week before we close out. I'm not sure if I actually shared this book before, but I read it often, and it's not a very long book, but it's profound. Every single word of it is profound, and I don't care if you're Christian, if you're a Muslim, or whatever your affiliation is, I highly recommend that you read it, and it's called Our Savior Has Arrived by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And again, that's the beautiful black man that is on our green screen behind me wearing the fez. I almost feel like I got to get out the way so you can see him a little bit on the green screen. Doesn't he look fantastic? So this is Our Savior Has Arrived. Please get this book. You can get it from thefinalcall.com. Look, it's been an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for tuning in to the Think Tank Show. We hope you heard something that inspired you and made you feel good. That's what it's all about. Thank you, family. Love you. Assalamu alaikum.
I'm fazed up, illuminated. I see you watching, I know you hate it. We done woke up, re-educated off of Juali's demonstration. A new nation, come of age, a long way high from them slavery days. Let my people in before we kick the door. Had them muftis coming with the swords. We born more, reduce the black, lace my boots up, cause I ain't having that. Call me a citizen, no, I'm a national. King Kendrick Seal, they calling me a radical, cause I'm outside the box and I ain't looking in. I be my riff knocked out, gray shadowed in, Europeanized mindset hammered in. The great fall of the Moor man, I was on my square, on my five, consciousness on overdrive, mind state on high, praise Allah that I'm alive, awake from the grave in the sea full of lies. I come to claim this mine, so step back, it's that time, it's the return of the Moors, return of the Moors, return of the Moors. It's the return of the Moors, return of the Moors, return of the Moors.
I rise above the murky thesis of the flesh. I give praises to Allah, cause every day I'm blessed. I'm being tested daily, living amongst the shady. At night I gotta pray, if not the streets will drive me crazy. I'm keeping things in a bounds of moderation. Being locked up taught me to practice patience. Every year I'm trying to see another more celebration. I once was in the dark, but now the light I'm facing. I thank Parker Bay for all the faithful demonstrations. We know death is a friend, so ain't no escaping. Islam means peace. I'm surviving in these streets. Too many years in prison, so knowledge I had to seek. I got a conflicting soul, but now my soul is meek. I got the gift, honest to Noble Drew Ali. He opened my eyes, so now I plainly see what the Moor Sign Temple strictly did for
On
me.
my square, on my five, consciousness on overdrive, mind state on high, praise Allah that I'm alive, awake from the grave in the sea full of lies. I come to claim this mine, so step back, it's that time, it's the return
Islam, Moorish Americans, and all well wishers. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. You are watching WHPR TV 33, the Think Tank Show. And I'm going to start off today with showing you we have oils, teas, and compounds that you have been requesting, and you can get them at a donation. And we also have turbans, the ones you have been requesting, the lace and the sequins like I wear. And you know what the oils and teas are good for, to purify your blood. The blood purifier, bring back your manhood. And I utilize it for when I'm not feeling well, and help cleanse me. The oil, the healing oil. The Prophet Noble Drew brought us healing remedies, the Moorish remedies, and this is the Moorish healing. This is the Moorish mineral and healing oil. Now you can receive this at a donation, and you can call me at 248-759-9834. Now I'm going to give praise to Allah. I'm going to say the Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Jurali. Amen. I should be reading from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And we also can, you also will be able to order literature if you need more Holy Qurans, questionnaires, Divine Constitution, and bylaws. This is the Moorish. That's the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's a questionnaire. This is a definer that we utilize to define the definition of the words, so we be able to explain and give more enlightenment and clarity. This is a Moorish literature. And you see we all have signs and symbols on each one. The crescent star. And the Divine Constitution and bylaws. Now you will be able to order, if you need to order any Moorish literature, you can call me at 248-759-9834, and we are accepting donations at P.O. Box 430803, Pontiac, Michigan 48343. Temple 13 does accept donations at P.O. Box 430803, Pontiac, Michigan 48343. First, I'm going to give praises to Allah and honors to Prophet Noble Drew and all the divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. I give honor to Brother Marcus Garvey. I give honor to all uplifting acts of the Moors and everything pertaining to the uplifting of fallen humanity. I should be reading from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his Father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his Father God Allah. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali is definitely seeking us to uplift fallen humanity. When you begin to comprehend and embrace Prophet Noble Drew Ali and love Prophet Noble Drew Ali, you will be ready to be industrious. I should be reading from, I'm going to read something different today. I was going to read that chapter, but I think I read something. And it was very interesting. I'll be reading from page 36, chapter 26, Holy Instructions of Unity. And this is the goal of Temple number 13. Through our love and unity in our communities, and we want to continue to focus on unity, uniting with all our brothers and sisters, all Asiatics and Muslims. The divine instructions from the Holy Prophet. Holy instructions of unity. The gifts of understanding are the treasures of Allah, and He appointed to everyone his portion in what measure seemeth good unto himself. So everyone has their expertise or their own thought process and what measures themselves to be a better person, to be a good person, so they can learn how to be at their best ability. Hath He endowed thee with wisdom? Hath He enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? Communicate it to the ignorant for their instruction. See, we have to sit and talk to our brothers and sisters because some of them do not even understand or overstand or understand. You know, everyone's on these different comprehension levels. That they are no longer Negro, black, colored, Ethiopian, African Americans. And some of them need to know that they are no longer those slaveholder names, marks, or statuses put upon them. So they may proclaim their nationality and birthrights. Communicate it to the ignorant for their instruction. Communicate it to the wise for thine own improvement. And I've read this Holy Quran several times. And sometimes there's other instructions and other definitions and things and different meanings that I did not pick up on when I read that particular chapter. I'm still learning and growing and working on building. True wisdom is less presuming than folly. The wise man doubteth often, changes his mind. See, when you're wise, you change your mind because you doubting yourself and you want to check yourself. And changes his mind. The fool is obstinate and doubteth not. He knoweth all things but his own ignorance. And sometimes we have people that think they know everything. And they actually do not. I'm not the authority on everything. I don't know everything. I know what I study, and I know what I need to utilize to uplift fallen humanity and to continue what it is that my expertise is. Everyone has their own expertise. Everyone has their own thought process. I don't study mechanics, so I don't know how to put a car together or fix a car. The pride of emptiness is an abomination. Abomination. Islam is an abomination. Abomination is something you don't want to be bothered with. You're scared of. You're trying to get away from. And to talk too much is the foolishness of folly. Nevertheless, it is the part of wisdom to hear with patience their impertinence and to pity their absurdity. Now, sometimes you do have to sit and listen to people because sometimes, I listen. Sometimes people come to me for counseling. They ask questions. They need help with something. You have to be able to listen so you can help and assist. Without knowing what the issues are or the problems, you cannot solve it. You must have some type of awareness what is going on. So you must listen carefully and do not judge anybody. They may be alcoholics or recovering drug addicts or whatever situation they may be at. They might be low income or they might be high income, and just whatever their situation is, you need to figure out what it is. If you're a part of uplifting acts and being industrious and helping our brothers and sisters through the way of life. And this is unity. So when we all come together and understand each other and do not judge one another, then we can help each other. Yet be not puffed up in thine own conceit, neither boast of superior understanding. The clearest human knowledge is but blindness and folly. So, if you are highly intelligent, because I consider myself highly intelligent, sometimes you have to be humble. Relax. The wise man feeleth his imperfection and is humbled. He labored in vain for his own approbation, but the fool peepeth in the shadow stream of his own mind, and is pleased with the pebbles which he seeth at the bottom. He bringeth them up and showeth them as pearls, and with the applause of his brethren delighteth himself. He boasteth of attainments and things that are of no worth, but where it is a shame to be ignorant, there he have no understanding. So when you do not comprehend something and you really want to know, it's best for you to go study it, figure it out to your best ability. Even in the path of wisdom he toileth after folly, and shame and disappointment and disappointments are the reward of his labor. So when you have a bunch of disappointments, you need to find a solution so you can have success. I am considered a success story. So you need to consider yourself a success story and continue to study, build, and grow to help uplift the nation through unity, being a unit, becoming one with all our brothers and sisters, all Asiatics and Muslims, no matter what religion, if they're atheists, they're on the street, they're in the church, they're from a different grand body. Without us uniting, because the evil unites and come together. The righteousness, we are considered the righteousness, we need to unite on all levels and come together. So we may conquer the world with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Even in the path of wisdom, he toileth after folly, and shame and disappointment are the reward of his labor. But the wise man cultivates his mind with knowledge, the improvement of the arts, and his delight and their utility to the public crowned with honor. So when you are doing what you need to do in your community, like Temple Number 13 does, love and unity in our community, you have to keep focusing on, because there's days and times that you're down and things might not go your way, but there's another day to focus on making it and building it and continue to grow. Nevertheless, the attainment of virtue he accounted as the highest learning, and the science of happiness is the study of his life. So we're supposed to seek joy and happiness as Moorish Americans. We're not supposed to be sitting around being lonely and bored and miserable. That's going against our higher self. So we need to focus on uniting. This chapter was about holy instructions of unity. So unity is coming together as one. And Temple Number 13 goal is to continue to unite our brothers and sisters no matter where they come from, our grand body, any other grand body, church, mosque, temples, any type of Muslims. You are watching the best. You're watching WHPR TV 33. You know what time it is. It's time to think. So continue to, and make sure you call me at 248-759-9834. And if you need to purify your blood, having stomach aches, headaches, you want to feel better, and you don't need all the side effects that come along with pills, because I take no type of medication unless it's mandatory. And these are the healing remedies I use of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Also, you can send donations to Temple Number 13 at P.O. Box 430803, Pontiac, Michigan 48343. Thank you. Have a blessed day. Love and peace.